guys, I'm Rich from NeoWin, and today we're unboxing the Moto G7 Power. So I reviewed the Moto G7 a couple of weeks ago. Lovely device. It's always a lovely device. Motorola does a great job. They do. I mean, in terms of value, it's $299, and you get a beautiful handset that's functional, and it's the point has always been that you don't have to spend $1,000 on a phone to have a great phone. And I mean, at the time when they first introduced the Moto G series, it was $600 or $700 to get a great phone, because obviously prices have gone up quite a bit since then. And the price of the Moto G series has went up since then. It used to be a $200 phone, and now it's $300. So the Moto G7 Power is $249. And so it's a little bit more inexpensive, but it's not quite as high end. You're missing things. You have 3 gigs of RAM instead of 4, 32 gigs of onboard storage, 720p display instead of 1080p, although it's still quite nice. I've seen it. You still get the Snapdragon 632 processor, so you're still getting the performance that you really want. Okay, I do wish it was 1080p though. And then of course the big feature, why it has the name Power, is because it has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Okay, 5,000 milliamp hour battery. It's a little heavier than I would like. It's 198 grams though, so it's not terribly heavy. So the color is marine blue, and that is the only color that this comes in. The regular Moto G7 comes in black or white. I went with white. Oh, this is quite nice. Gotta say, it's a lovely shade of blue, and it's like a metallic color of blue, and it's glass back, which is something they started doing last year. Not a fan of it because there's no wireless charging. By the way, this is the white Moto G7, and you can see that it's got that chrome colored frame. It's not actually chrome, it's not metal. It actually uses vacuum metallizing process. So let's see what else is in the box. We have a piece of cardboard followed by another piece of cardboard. Inside here, we're going to find some paperwork and such that we will not read. We have a SIM pin. All right, if I can just get it. There you go. Some paperwork, like I said. All right, we're going to leave all this stuff in here. I really don't take much stuff out of the box except for these videos. I don't use the chargers that come with boxes. Do you have any idea how many USB Type-C, Type-A to Type-C cables I have? How many 15-watt power adapters? Quite a few. So that's what we have in this box, though. Okay, like I said, 15-watt power adapter. It supports 15-watt turbocharging. So Motorola says that 15 minutes of charging can get you 9 hours of use out of this phone. We're talking days of battery life, not just a day. Days. 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Okay, another thing you're going to see, single lens camera. Dual lens camera. It's worth noting the differences between these two phones that extra $50 will get you. Like I said though, I'm not a fan of the glass back because there's no wireless charging. These phones up until, who was it, the G5, they had a metal back, and before, up until the G3, they had a plastic back. So when you switch to glass, it can break, obviously. You drop this thing on the concrete, you might not just break the screen, you could break the back as well, and that's a problem. So why do you switch to glass? It's prettier. It's definitely prettier. But also, you can't do wireless charging through metal. So glass back can do wireless charging. So there's an actual functional reason for it. If you're just doing it to make it prettier, then you made the phone fragile just for an aesthetic change, and I'm not a fan of that. If you make a change that, if there's a sacrifice, there has to be a real functional benefit as well. I mean, in my opinion, you might just want the prettier phone, and you can have that. All right, so this phone does have a fingerprint sensor on the back. It's the Motorola logo now, which is nice. It's pretty, I'll give it that. So we'll start. We're going to add our fingerprint, which is getting to be a kind of a pain. It should vary slightly each time. I'm trying. Okay, almost there. It'll let me. All right. So I mentioned that the fingerprint sensor is on the back because the Moto G7 Play does not have the fingerprint sensor on the back. And that's one of those things. The G7 Play costs $199, so it's $199, $249, and $299. So obviously, with every price tier that you go down, you're going to lose a few features. The notch is also a little bit bigger. Jesus, can we just get through the setup process? Okay, the notch is a little bit bigger. That's something that you're going to want to be aware of. These are little things. It's funny because the G7 has the smallest notch. Let's get rid of that. The G7 has the smallest notch. The G7 Power is the second smallest, and then the G7 Play actually has the largest. So the notch gets the cheaper the phone you get, the larger the notch gets. Okay, so while the biggest feature is the 5,000 milliamp hour battery, obviously new camera features. That's a big thing with Motorola each year. It's gonna give me a tutorial that I don't want. Okay, so Cinemagraph, spot color. Spot color we already had. Cinemagraph is new. So what that is that's basically you're recording a little video. So you can kind of see the demo there where and the birds aren't moving, but the balloons are. So just do a little thing of the desk here, and it's moving, and then it's gonna let me pick areas of the. If I can get through this tutorial, it's going to let me pick areas that are actually still moving. So you kind of see that moves under there. And it's a fun feature. I don't know how actually useful it is. So really, once again, the new camera features are all about bringing the flagship features down from the Z series to the G series, because I don't think the X series exists anymore. And of course, things like portrait mode aren't there because we have that single lens camera. This thing has already picked up a whole bunch of fingerprints. Like I said, I do love the design of the white G7 the most. I think that's the real winner in terms of design. So I'm not seeing always on display. Yeah, there it is. So really, it's a sometimes on display, and it reacts when you pick up the phone, when you move the phone. See, there it goes, and that's all part of Moto. If you're not familiar with Moto, you should be if you have a Motorola phone, because it's awesome. This started out with the Moto X, back when Motorola was owned by Google, and they had Moto Voice, and this was before Google Assistant existed, and now Moto Voice is kind of gone, and it's a shell of what it once was. We have Moto Voice. Oh, Moto Voice is not here. The Moto G7 does have that Moto Voice thing where you can kind of, you notice we do have different features here. And it's just reading messages when you're driving or something. But anyway, okay. So Moto Display, you'll find peak display. That's that sometimes on display that we had. Attentive display. That's interesting because the screen won't. It uses the camera to not put the display to sleep while you're looking at it. Okay. Moto Actions is where the bulk of this stuff is. Lift to unlock, and that's if you use facial recognition and stuff that's useful. Media control screenshot editor. So screenshot editor is actually pretty cool. You can take a screenshot here, and then you can actually set it to capture more. So this is a feature. I think Samsung was the first to do this, and we're going to discard this. Samsung, I think, was the first to do it, where you could actually take that scroll shot rather than having to take multiple screenshots of a big page or something. Yeah, so some of it was pretty cool. Pick up to silence the ringer, flip for do not disturb, which is always great. I'm going to put that on because the notification sound on this phone is hideous until I get around to changing it. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in the Moto app, and what I really like about it is that, you know, obviously every OEM uses their own skin of Android. This is very... There's that hideous notification sound I was talking about. But this is pretty close to stock, and every other OEM just jam-packs all their stuff into settings. So we have Moto here, and it just opens the Moto app. And to me, it makes it a lot easier to put this stuff in an app, so you're not searching through a custom settings app that can be just a mess. Like if you use Samsung, yeah, it's a mess. So putting in an app makes sense to me. The features make sense to me. They seem to always be pretty well thought out, and I like that. So a couple other things just about the design of the phone. You notice that there are larger bezels on the Power, larger chin. Like I said, 720p display, although you can't really tell unless you look closely. So in reviewing this, I'm going to be testing the battery life. But another thing I just want to point out is that if you go into video settings over here, you can take video. You can do 1080p 60, which was available last year on the G series, and 4K 30 in a $250 phone. That's pretty incredible. So like I said, I already reviewed this. I wrote the review. It's done. And honestly, people were so interested in it. That's why I accepted the G7 Power, because it's a little more inexpensive. You're losing some features. You're gaining some, such as the larger battery. But still, I mean, it's a great phone for this price. The camera feature, like video recording, awesome for this price. 1080p 60 is great. 4K 30, that's really kind of unheard of at $250. Although premium devices now are doing 4K 60. Well, some of them. So, I mean, yeah, it's a pretty device. It looks premium. It looks lovely, as always. Fingerprint sensor on the back. 720p display. Single lens camera. 5,000 milliamp hour battery. So they're promising days. We're going to see if it actually gets days with regular usage. So stay tuned for that. I'll have a review on this in probably about a month. So I'm Rich from NeoWin. Have a great night.